Hi, everyone. My name is Karen Martone. I'm our moderator for the current session we're in here at BB Dev Days, which is unlocking the power of data using Power BI to drive informed decisions in K-12 schools. We are really excited to get going here. We have two great presenters for this session, Brian Jarvis and Kathy Steinman. So I'm going to invite them up on the stage, and we're going to invite all of you to use the chat and the Q&A to interact with us throughout this session.
Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. Welcome to Unlocking the Power of Your Data and using Power BI to drive informed decisions in K-12 schools. So in this session, Brian and I are going to talk about Power BI and using it to drive data-informed decisions. And we're going to share with you how we connected Power BI with our core data in our respective schools to help our teams make efficient and data-informed decisions. So to begin, first I'm going to share my screen. Forgive me, I'm just kind of, can everyone see the screen? I hope so. Great. And I'd like to introduce ourselves. So my name's Kathy Steinman, and I'm Director of Institutional Research and the Assistant Director of Financial Aid at Canaan Country School in New Canaan, Connecticut. And we are a pre-K through 9 co-ed day school. And Brian?
Yeah, hi, good afternoon. It's good to be with everyone. I'm Brian Jarvis. I'm from Norfolk Academy in Norfolk, Virginia. We're about 10 miles west of Virginia Beach. We are a co-ed day school, grades 1 through 12, with about 1,200 students.
So I've been using Power BI since the fall of 2022. So it's been about 2.5 years. And in that time, we've completely streamlined the data gathering and reporting processes in the admission and enrollment offices at Country School. And so much so that we've eliminated my old position in that office, which was really data and analytics and things like that. Today, the data reporting is nearly 100% self-service in our school. So what that means is that the team, including the director of admission, the marketing team, the CFO, the controller, division heads, and others, they can all access enrollment data and admission data on their own whenever they need. And they have the power to sift through the data using filters to fine tune exactly what it is that they're looking for, all without messing up any of our spreadsheets or any of the underlying data. But I'm getting ahead of myself.
I have a very similar experience with Kathy in terms of our department and admissions wanting to get more out of the information in the fields of data that we already had access to, but to be able to interact with it and see it in a different way. So I hadn't met Kathy yet, but started on my own path to explore Power BI using admissions information, and it really changed the game for us in our admissions office. We now rely heavily on Power BI reporting in the admissions group. And also we've expanded that to include student data, which we'll look at today, to bring in market view information, NAIS, market data, census data, to be able to look at lots of different elements across the school in a very unique, powerful, and very visual way. I was introduced to Kathy not too long after I began this journey here. And it's so nice to see folks in the room who are interested, who do this already, ready to learn a little bit more, and want to thank Kathy especially for her energy and expertise to get us started.
So I thought we would, to make the most of our time together today, that we would go over these 5 points. So one of the things we'll begin with in a few moments is we're going to talk about what questions do you and your team find challenging to answer, and what data might help you explore those questions. And then we're going to talk about what is Power BI. And then we're going to get a little bit into how you can build your own real-time interactive data reports. We'll give you the code snippet to unlock the Blackbaud data and bring it into Power BI. And then the fun part is to show you what it actually looks like in reality. So to begin, I thought we could take a few moments just to kind of bring ourselves into the headspace and frame this. Think about what slows you down. What are your challenges? What data would be good to see? And I wrote a few things down that those were the things that were slowing me down in our school. But if you can, maybe enter into the chat some of the thoughts that you have about how data might be slowing you down. What are you challenged by at your school? Okay. So I am trying to see if accuracy of spreadsheets that are hand created. That's exactly what drove me into this whole thing. Silos, absolutely. Siloing is a real challenge at many schools. A lot of silos. Yep. And that was my head of school's biggest thing was he wanted to centralize data, and I couldn't. It was challenging to do, but Power BI allowed us to overcome that. So it sounds like we're all kind of grappling with a lot of the same kinds of things. Okay, so Brian, do you want to talk about what is Power BI?
Sure. So, and thanks for the information in the chat. Both Kathy and I would support using that. Please let us see the questions, the things that are on your mind, since we're in a webinar format. It just helps to create that conversation. So there are lots of ways to visualize data out in the real world and school worlds. And Microsoft's is called Power BI, and it's basically a data analytic and visualization tool. Very, very helpful in terms of being able to break down silos, that is to say, pull information from lots of different data sources. It lives for your users in your school and the web, which makes it extremely interactive. You can work on it asynchronously across the school, doing different things, filtering information, and you can't break it. All of the information, that is the data, sits behind that web interface. It really does reduce, someone mentioned the friction in spreadsheets and being able to look and sort and filter, and it takes all of that friction away. And so it makes it very intuitive, very interactive, and it has a lot of longevity. Once it's there in Power BI, it stays there. You don't have to recreate it, much like we might have recreated or brought forward spreadsheet data. It's free to use, so the Power BI desktop version, we'll show you that in a little bit. It's free to download and use. It's the best way to try. It's just to try. And then if you fall in love with it, like we have, and you want to try it out and publish it out to some users, there is a license that goes along with that, but it's pretty minimal. And we have found, and Kathy will share her experience too, that once users are interacting with and have access to data in this very visual, web-based way, it makes it really hard to go back to the ways we might have used data before. If you want to hit that next slide for us, Kathy. So one of the things we always talk about is visualization, but it's really a part of the puzzle. So telling the story at schools and making informed decisions using data requires, or we would suggest it's helpful to have visuals, but that's 1/3 or one piece of the puzzle. So the narrative is really important, the story that you tell or that your departments may want to tell. And then it, of course, relies on the accuracy, dependability, of the data that feeds it. So what visuals do really for the brain is it reduces the cognitive load. And the human brain, we can access and put together patterning and trends much quicker in a visual format than we can with a more traditional table or spreadsheet. Spreadsheets and tables absolutely have their place. No one is arguing that. But with a group at school who may not look at data as much as you guys do or we do, this is a great way into the conversation for them, and it's visual. So really quickly, what good visuals do? Why does Power BI do what it does for schools and organizations? It really improves the access to data. There's fewer clicks, there's fewer spreadsheets, there's fewer versions. It increases the transparency and certainly the clarity. I mentioned it reduces some friction and cognitive load. It's easier to get inside patterns that aren't numerical but visual. Kathy and I both believe firmly in the last two. Good data sparks further inquiry, and good visuals will raise questions, and that's a really good posture, we believe, and a very healthy posture, we believe, for schools to have. And then finally, we got to do something with it, and we hope to inform the decision making. It's not driving decisions necessarily, but it is an important piece that allows folks to have more information at their fingertips in better ways through Power BI. The other side of the coin, we always have to mention what data isn't supposed to do. And I think it's important that we speak to this. Data is not really prescriptive. It's not trying to drive every decision. It's trying to inform the conversations that are happening. We all know that data is not perfect. It's going to be messy. And that's some of the fun in doing this work. It never is a proxy for professional judgment, especially with working with children. And so it helps inform rather than dictate. And then we both feel very strongly, and hopefully you do too, that it shouldn't feel like an additional something. All of us have a lot on our plates, and so it should make our lives easier. It should bring value to the process, and we certainly think Power BI does that. This is a pretty simple visual to describe really the process of how to start with just raw data on the left, and we're going to show a couple of quick examples using something like a flattened Excel file to bring into Power BI Desktop, which is free and sits on your laptop or your computer. It's where you build the Canvas report and select visuals and really build the story that you're going to tell with your users or your audience. In order for them to access it very cleanly and easily, we publish then into the Power BI service. That's the web-based version. And then with the license, and we've expanded our number of licenses to I think 37 or 38 here on campus, folks that can access different reports, as Kathy mentioned, and interact with them live through a simple URL share. So what does it look like? This is what it looks like. So this is a version of a student data report page that I did. I'll just move from left to right really quickly. This gives us the visual interaction of academic results for a semester in our upper school grades 10, 11, 12. So in the top left-hand corner, you can see the distributions by grade. And then there are 3 visuals for the histograms that are in orange. We also track average by gender, and you can see that's relative comparatively, visually super easy to see by discipline. And then the top right, there's something called a mosaic visual that gives us the breakdown of both colors and frequency and numerical averages of every course taught that semester. And then at the bottom right, you get a more traditional table that you can allow yourself to filter into the student level. So this is like drinking out of a fire hose. So the gray buttons that are in the center of that page allow you to simplify it, compartmentalize it, and filter it. So we could select from the top just to look at all of the grades by gender, or all the information by grade, level, or all the information by department. So this is something that our upper school and middle school administrative teams, department heads, have been using to be able to look at trends and patterns over the time variant for different parts of the school, in this case, the upper school. The next one takes the aggregate data and it just, it simplifies it, so to speak, into individual student performance. So on our campus, we didn't have a really clean place we could go to see the time variant, again, of grades, which is that center pink box by department. So you can look at a student's performance over time. In the left, underneath the picture, you can select any student that's in the data model. There's a blue link that connects directly to Blackbaud, to that student's record, to feed you back to the original data source. And then it pulls together on the same page something that we haven't seen at our school before, which is the athletics and fine arts participation. So this is a very quick example of a way to see a student's life, so to speak, both academically and through participation through a new visualization in Power BI. Finally, one of the things, and Kathy and I, again, I think would echo this, you know, in admissions work, we all look at zip code analysis, but 5-digit zip codes are really hard to visualize. And so being able to look at distributions, whether it's enrollment or applications, or the distributions of financial aid awards, potentially in this example, the mapping function in Power BI is extremely helpful. And it allows your audience to connect with an analysis that you're used to in admissions work, zip code analysis, out of a table format and then onto a map where everybody actually lives. And it makes more sense in terms of being able to enter that discussion with the data that we have. Okay, I'll pause right there, actually. That was a lot of words. So I didn't get a chance, Kathy, to look over at the chat. So I'm wondering if there's anything in that particular section.
I see Carolyn's asking, where do you get your visuals, the built-in ones while editable or limited? So yeah, I will just throw in there that you'll notice that Brian's work is a lot more fancy than mine.
Well, that's selling yourself short, Kathy. Carolyn, to your question, I think when we look at the ability to get to the data quickly visually, the bar and chart and lines and maps are pretty straightforward. Things like the histograms or the distribution or more statistical work, I have found myself going out within Power BI and getting those approved new visuals. So a violin chart, for example, or the histogram that you saw, building those in Power BI. They're available in Power BI. You just have to add that visual and then play around with it a little bit. Good question. One of the things we wanted to do is get to an actionable piece, which is how do you do this? How do you start this? So both Kathy and I opened Power BI and we said, how would we do this in the simplest way? And if you open a Power BI desktop file, it'll prompt you to go get your data. And the easiest way to get data into Power BI for just playing around or testing is through an Excel workbook. So you want to flatten file structure, and there's an example of that on this slide. And this is one that Kathy created just to have some anonymized information based on maybe some admissions fields. And when you click on Excel workbook, it'll ask you to put that file into Power BI. Go ahead. And there's your first data model. And so the data model actually looks like a spreadsheet or a table within Power BI. And it allows you then to interact with each of those fields. And so for an example, I put a little bar around the first few. We'll see those in a minute. But this brings data into Power BI. And now you're ready. And as simple as an upload from a flattened Excel file, you're ready to build. And so on the next slide, we'll see on the right-hand side, those 4 fields that tie directly to the previous model are now sitting for your selection to build what's in the larger rectangle, which are the visuals. And so depending on the information that you have and the story you're trying to tell, Kathy and I have both spent a lot of time trying to figure out which visual captures the story, whether it's a time variant, whether it's, what is the story you're trying to tell? And that's the process. And in Power BI Desktop, you're able to change a lot of things in terms of titles and axes and colors, all the things that you would normally expect to do in a visualization. But that's as simple as the process can be. An Excel workbook into Power BI Desktop, and then you're able to build off of the fields that are there. Kathy, do you want to add anything to that process? I know you've done that as well.
No, I think that's really just the easiest way to get started. Download Power BI and just give it a try with a Google Sheet or Excel and bring it in and just begin, just poking around is so easy. And once you get that satisfaction of being able to just begin there, you'll be able to take the next steps, which is what I know a lot of us come here to learn about. So both Brian and I work with a consultant. His name is Matt Clemens, and Matt has been working on connecting Power BI to Blackbaud advanced lists for many, many years. I'm going to venture to say 10 years at least. And he, along with a couple of other people, I think, developed a code snippet that we share with you here. If you wanted to grab it from this, you scan this, or you can go right here and we'll share it again at the end of our presentation. But this code snippet will allow you to connect an advanced list from Blackbaud and then bring that list over into Power BI. And we have the steps laid out here. Matt is absolutely the one who knows how to do this best. I can do it, but he knows it better than I do. In order to begin, you would have to have in the back end of Blackbaud, you would have to have your SDK, the software development kit, set up and assign the web services role to the kit. And then you would have an advanced list. You build your advanced list, and then you share the advanced list with that API role. Again, a lot of words, but once you understand how to connect a data set to Power BI, this will make more sense. And then you use this code snippet that sits here and you link that in, and now your data set will be pulled in very much the same way that Brian was showing you back here. With a Google Sheet, it would be the same thing, but instead it would be connecting to an advanced list. So I'm going to pause there. If there are any questions, I cannot answer technical questions about that. I know it works. I know how to replicate it, but I can't answer all of the how do you do this, that, and the other thing, or the security questions. I know it's secure, but I can't explain exactly how it's secure. But Matt could totally answer that question, and we're happy to connect with anybody off the line. So that is the magic, the secret sauce on how to connect to an advanced list. So this is where I think the most important thing and the biggest takeaway that we would love for you to have about our session today is really being able to look at an actual sample report. What does all of this do? Where can it take you? That's where I get really excited about. And I thought we would begin with showing some of that. So I am going to come back over here and try to share my screen. So hold on one second. Are you able, let me just see if you're able to see this screen. Hang on a second. Hold on. Are you able to see Power BI? No, right? Are you able to see my Power BI?
Not yet.
Challenging. Okay. Sorry, they got this fancy gold star stuff, and we got about 60 seconds to test it before we got in here. Apologies. Okay. Hang on. I'm choosing my entire screen, and we're going to share here, and we're going to try one more time. How's this?
That is perfect, Kathy. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay. So one of the first places that we began at Country School, one of the first areas that we wanted to tackle in terms of data and making that connection to Power BI was for the admission team. They really wanted to tackle the admission funnel. And I could spend hours, if not days, going into every one of these tabs, but what I wanted to do today is just to begin to orient you to what the Power BI desktop looks like. This is, and when we talk about desktop is where we build. And so I, together with Matt, my consultant, we build from advanced lists, we bring it into here, and we build the things that we think will most serve, best serve our team. So we began with the basics, inquiries. And one of the challenges that we had at Country School, and I'm sure many schools have this challenge, is being able to seek inquiries or any step along the funnel year over year. We are now able to see inquiries year over year, which for us is a tremendous advantage. Over on the left side of my Power BIs, I put all of my potential slicers for my team, things that I think that they would want to slice their data on. So that's what this section is over here. My team uses the Power BIs that we create mostly for operational kinds of things. They're not looking at it from the, some people are, but a lot of people are really in the weeds. They're looking at the operational pieces rather than looking from the 30,000 foot level. So you'll notice the big difference between the things that Brian's going to share with you and the things that I'm sharing with you. So this is very fundamental. Yes, I could make a chart, but for my team, they really want to have numbers. They want to know, how am I doing? This is all mock data, but how am I doing this year versus last year for any given time? And what's really powerful about Power BI is I can have this table that shows you a summary of inquiries for any by month. That's how I decided to lay it out. But then I know that they're interested in grade, and you can drill down further and you can see grade by year. And I'm going to move quickly because there's so much to share. And then if someone wanted to drill in a little bit deeper and see, well, who are these two people who inquired so late in the year? Well, you can click here, and this bottom table that I create in most of my Power BIs is interactive. It's responsive, rather, and it shows you the actual two records that make up these two that are here. So that gives my team the ability to drill down exactly as they want. And my marketing team wanted to see the same kind of data, but they're interested in the map. So they can drill in and say, well, where are these 2 late inquiries coming from? And then they can dig in and see what's happening there. We have the same thing along the line for initiated apps. I'm always changing my Power BI. So anytime there's something new, I let them know by highlighting what's new. Again, most of my Power BI start with a slicers over on the left, data over here with an interactive or rather responsive table down below. Any section of these can be expanded into focus mode so that a team member can just focus on one section. Data can be exported, although that's exactly what we're trying to avoid, so we don't encourage that. Moving along the funnel, I have completed apps. This gets deeper into the funnel, which is the really exciting pieces that we used to try to put into spreadsheets, but we have an early action process at our school, and trying to segregate all of that and look at the entire funnel and see what the yield and the accept rate and yield was on just that early action segment was always challenging on a spreadsheet. No longer do we have to worry about that. There it is for my director to see anytime she wants. Same thing with year over year, all decisions. She can filter for this year, last year, by grade. She can see what is our accept rate over the last 5 years for our beginners program. She can see what the yield is for all of that. And this is all reading from advanced lists. They're reading primarily from a core advanced list. I mean that in a punny sort of way. Yes, it's coming from core. And then there are others. Sometimes I might have 2, 3, or 4 advanced lists feeding this data. So all along the pipeline, just moving very quickly, we have everything that ever entered into my team's mind, or they said, oh, I need a spreadsheet of, I say, no, I'm going to put it in Power BI. And then we talked about analysis and drilling in for decision making. We had a lot of applications for so few spots in kindergarten. So we did an analysis on that to see what did the last several years look like, what did our accept rate look like, what did our yield look like, and that helped inform, did not inform, but helped inform how we would decide to make our acceptances this year to ensure that we ended up with a full class. So that was all really important. Another thing that I just wanted to point out, that one of the challenges that we used to have is looking at year over year to a specific date. With Power BI, we can say how many applications do we have up to October 5th. And I can choose up to October 5th. And I might have another slicer on here, but it would show me exactly how many there were to the date year over year. So I could just see all of September and just a segment. Again, this is all mock data, so it doesn't look like my usual stuff. So that is a look into that. Now, this is the desktop version. When I'm ready to share it out with my team, I built everything. I like where things are. We hit publish, and then we push it out to the end users. And when we do that, those who have a subscription. Okay, I just switched to another screen. Are you able to see it?
Yes.
Okay, great. They have a web version of Power BI with their license, and we have about 20 licenses out there, and they have workspaces, and they are able to enter the workspace that they have access to, and they can dig right in. They click on the workspace that they want to work in, and they can see when it was last updated. Again, this is a mock version. I only updated it yesterday, but you can set reschedule refreshes. So mine refresh every other hour in my real live world, every other hour, 8 times a day. And they have the power to refresh at any time that they want to. This is, other than the admission data, this is the other single biggest area that we tackled that made a huge difference for our school. And it was managing enrollment and re-enrollment. And over on the left, as always, I have my slicers here. So we can see at any given time, what is the contract status as soon as that first contract leaves the queue. And my team can sit out there on their phone, on their desktop, wherever they are, and they will know what the update is for how many contracts do we have in hand. If they want to slice it and they're only interested in the new contracts, they can slice it and they can see who hasn't started, who has started, who has processed, and who chose not to accept the position, the spot. And this is an iterative thing or an evolutionary thing for my team. We started with a table like this, and then they said, "Ooh, I want that same thing, but this time I would love to see it by gender. Ooh, I would like to see our enrollment goal, but I want to see how we're doing versus our goal." Again, this is all mock data, so it doesn't quite make, the numbers won't make 100% sense there. We were tracking attrition, so that's something we tracked over here. And then the last thing I will say, I know I'm using a lot of words, but I just want to show you the power of what you can do, is the financial aid remission. Down to the dollar, we can tie out with our team, with the financial aid office, the financial aid office and the admission team can tie out with the business office. We used to spend hours and hours working on this. Now they can say, oh, processed, 92 contracts processed. We spent $4 million down to the dollar, and they can tie out. And if they have any question about anyone, they can say, well, who are these 7 people? They hit 7 and they know who they are and exactly how much was given and whatever. So really, really powerful stuff happening there. I'll take a breath and just want to see if anybody has any specific questions. But what I wanted to show there really is just what is possible. Any data point that's sitting over in Blackbaud can come over into Power BI. And the other piece I will say is that you can build logic, conditional logic, things that you can't do within Blackbaud, you're limited within the Insight Designer. Over here, you're not limited. And that we use that so much to do all that output that I just showed. And what membership do you give the end user in their workspace? We give viewer. I give viewer as well. Mm-hmm. And I also curtail it by, very specifically for different groups. Division heads can see certain things. Business office can see certain things. So we're pretty specific about who sees what. Okay, so Brian, are you up now?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go and share I'm going to share the screen again.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Kathy. So being mindful of our time, we're going to move to the next piece. Wishing we were all in the same room and could have a conversation in person, but both Kathy and I would extend the invitation to connect with anyone at any time. And so Kathy's going to pull up a Power BI presentation. This sits live on the web and you can access it. The slide deck holds the link, although we'd be happy to send it to you if you ever have any trouble with it. And we did this presentation at the Atlas conference last year in 2024.
Okay, and let me make sure that I'm sharing the right thing here. Hold on one second. And I believe it's this one.
Perfect. So that's perfect. 2 of the challenges we had at our school and wanted to try to overcome were being able to have access to student data over time, individual student data, to be able to see their journey for their time at Norfolk Academy. So not only academics, but participation, their advisors, the adults in their lives, their schedules, et cetera. The second piece of that was that we didn't have a very easy way to aggregate all of that information and analyze it over time. So that could be by department, by grade, by faculty team, et cetera. So we took off to try to grab everything we could grab, as Kathy mentioned, and then build along the way. So I'm going to move from individual student data quickly into more aggregate analytical data and describe who uses what when. Knowing we won't get through all of this, again, this all sits live. There are 9 tabs or so, I think, of report pages that you can get to through the link. So maybe, Kathy, if you could pull down the search bar and just hit, let's do one student. So everything is responsive in real time. This is searchable for every student in our Blackbaud system. And so a lot of siloed data information was mentioned as a need. This is doing just that. It's pulling information about the student from the academic side, their participation or athletics, the scheduling, the demographics, and there's a direct connection in that link that is right there, Kathy's mouse there, that will take you right back to their record. So if Kathy, if you want to hover over one of the grades on a certain class over in, yeah. So this is a very accessible way for our division directors, our grade level chairs, our department heads to see the progression of grades, who the teacher was over a period of time that we just didn't have access to before. If you want to go to the next tab, which I think is, yeah, 4. This is, and we'll probably have to pull down, oh no, there we go. This is giving us basically a report card view of an academic journey for a student. It's filtered for math, so we'll just unclick that. We did not here have the ability to see that child's report card over a period of time that they were here at Norfolk Academy. We do one more click on math. So this gives the user just a really, really quick entry point into their academic. It has distributions. You can look at the bottom line chart and see really quickly that student's progression and where there might be struggles, or there might be really, really important achievements, and we just didn't have access to that. In the next tab, thanks, Kathy, we also wanted to see that student's journey at the school in ways outside of the classroom. So by hovering over any of these visuals, you can see the student's participation in athletics in this case, who the coach was, the fine arts participation by year, and then at the very bottom, you can see some other activities that are co-curricular activities as well. So as an advisor to a student, this would tell me what that student does, what they've been involved in, who might be a good partner to connect with that student as well on anything we were working on individually. Thanks, Kathy. I think we can hop to tab 7. I know we're going fast.
Okay.
So we wanted to, and you might have to back out the filters on this.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We don't have a clear all filters on here, so I was trying to get out of it.
I think if you just click again on the 10th.
I was trying to click in some of the white spaces there. Oh.
Will you do me a favor? Sorry, will you click on the 10th grade?
Click on the 10. Hang on. The 10.
The black 10th grade.
Oh my God. Okay, hang on. This?
So, no. In the slicers. One is filled in black.
Okay, so click on the 10 here.
Yep.
Okay.
And then also the same with English.
There we go. Thank you.
Okay. Sure. So that's this kind of gave us a look and the ability to take the individual student data still coming from Blackbaud, still tied to the API that's feeding the desktop, still in real time, still refreshed, and to be able to pull back a couple of levels and look at a grade level based on lots of different views. So this is aggregate data, and that would be used more at the administrative level, grade levels for sure, deans, department heads as well. So I think it's important to echo Kathy's sentiment and the ones that were asked earlier about the data flow. This is the same data that has sat in Blackbaud for us. We're pulling it out and viewing it and being able to look at it and analyze it and ask questions of it in different ways. But the construct and the scaffold of the data we're all used to is there. We haven't changed a thing. Finally, and just being mindful of the time, if you go one more to 9.
To 9, yep.
So, a lot of times schools, in terms of the academic deans or divisions, want to see the progression, the distributions of grades over time by department or by class or by grade or by faculty team. And so this is a type of visual that aggregates the same data, but in a different view. And so, as we mentioned earlier, the visual nature of the bars and their size is already wired into our brains and eyeballs to pick out those patterns much, much more easily. And so this then becomes one of the real value pieces of Power BI, which is to take pretty dense, complicated in some ways information, and to be able to pull it out and to display it and reason with it and talk about it with different types of audiences across the school. Okay, I'll stop there with 5 minutes potentially left for a chat or a question or follow-up by Kathy. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah, does anybody have any questions or would like to go deeper into any other thing? We have just a couple of minutes, actually, I think 2, because we need to leave a few minutes for feedback or something like that. Hang on. I'm going to share this. This is the code snippet. Again, you can, that will give you the code that you need to link an advanced list into Power BI. And Brian and I and Matt are always available and happy to walk anyone through that and show you what it looks like in the back end of hours. It'll take about 10 minutes and you'll be up and running. And we're happy to share our emails with you and connect with you about any aspect of this. Or if you have ideas of things that we didn't talk about today, we'd love to hear them.
Great. Thank you so much, Kathy.
Thank you, Brian. This was great.
Yeah.
Okay, Kara, did you want to launch the thing?
Yes, sure. So before everyone jumps off, please make sure that you fill out the survey that was just launched in the participant panel, and just answer those questions. It shouldn't take too long, just so we get some feedback on the session today. And we do just have a couple more minutes if anyone wanted to drop a question or two into the chat before we wrap things up today.
Okay, great.
So we'll just keep our eyes on that and fill out that survey, answer those, drop those questions in the chat before we have to drop today.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things we didn't talk about much, but I'll just throw out there while we're wrapping up here is the real power of Power BI is being able to pull from multiple data sources. I know we said it, but what does that look like in reality is we're beginning to pull from RENXT and Advanced Lesson Core. And with that common denominator of a student ID, we're able to tell a bigger story. We can talk about parent giving and participation and all kinds of things like that and bring the whole thing together. And that's really, really powerful stuff. All right.
Yeah, it does not look like there are any more questions in the chat. So I guess with that, we can wrap things up.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for your attendance. Thank you to Kathy and Brian for so many things to learn in such a short amount of time. We really appreciate that. And I hope everyone enjoys the rest of the BB Dev Days conference.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye now.